Uh, Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome back to the Four Direction. Today is December 24th, 2020, and our topic for today is democracy, election in Africa, and COVID-19 crisis in the continent. So, it's an important topic, and we are going to discuss this with our guests for today. I require please share the link with your networking and your friends, and also send us your suggestions about what do you think about is there is democracy in Africa, and how it can be implemented in the government system. Also, give us suggestions for new topic and how it can work. The thing, democracy achieved in Africa, in the continent? Do we have good governance that provide the services for the citizens of the continent, or they are just there to serve their interests and also use the positions that they have and the power to get what they want? How is the elections going to work in the 2021, and also the voting system, how it can work? Um, Recently, some of the countries have, like Uganda, have announced that they will be using the digital system for the voting. Is that going to work? Do we have the infrastructure that can help such different countries to hold an electronic election? Also, with the COVID-19 and the second wave that the Africa CDC has this warn from a second wave for COVID-19, how is that going to affect the population in the continent, and what is the solution for that? And also police brutality in Nigeria, and the SARS movement, and the human rights violation that are taking place right now. How that can soon be handled. I'm going. We're going to discuss that in our today topic. I'm joined by two guests here in the studio. I have Mr. Karim Mutambi. He's the Power, People Power, a Ugandan political party, and he's the US coordinator. Welcome, Karim.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mary, for having me. And happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you. And also, I'm joined by Dr. Daniel Shidemi. He's the founder of Project Inform. Welcome, Dr. Daniel.
Thank you so much and happy holidays. Happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So let us start on talking about Karim. Please tell us previously about your organization, People Power Uganda. What is the organization goal and vision?
Thank you so much, Mary. Hi, everyone. Karim Tambi is my name. I'm one of the coordinators for the People Power Movement here in the USA. Um, People Power Movement started about 2 years ago by Honorable Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu, who is a presidential candidate in Uganda. Um, we are focused on liberating the people of Uganda from the 35-year-old junta of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. So here in the diaspora, as the People Power Movement supplements what's going on in Uganda in terms of advocacy, in terms of resource, in terms of mobilization. So what we have been doing as the People Power wing of the diaspora is basically three things. We mobilize, we organize, and we organize, and also do more advocacy work. People Power Movement is looking at 5 issues in this coming election. One is a people-centered government. Our government has been held in shambles by the people who went to the bush and think that they can dominate and do whatever they want. We want to bring back the government to the people, to Ugandans to feel like what the government does really represents them. Two, another issue that the People Power Movement is focused on is our health services and education. Health sector in Uganda, as you have been saying, the COVID-19 numbers in Uganda are rising. It is not because we were not prepared. We would have been prepared better. We received donations to mitigate the scourge earlier on in the year. Unfortunately, because of poor government and misuse of public funds, our leaders decided that they wouldn't even think of it. They channeled the money elsewhere. So we want to make sure that our health services are taken care of, revamped, our referral hospitals have medication. Another issue is our education system. Um, we have been using the same syllabus for mostly middle school and high school since the 70s. It is the same syllabus. So the history that our parents learned at school is the same. We want to make sure that our education matches with the 21st century. Um, the next issue that people power is looking at is good international relations with our neighbors to start with before we go any further. You have been saying for the past 20 years, we've been having conflicts in South Sudan, in the Congo, in Rwanda, and most of these places, Uganda has been at the center of these conflicts. And as we speak, Uganda owes a debt of about 11 billion US dollars to the Democratic Republic of Congo, having destabilized them. The International Court of Justice had awarded the Congo 11 billion US dollars, and that money is supposed to be coming from the taxes of Ugandans who never benefited. It was a few handful people who decided to go and destabilize the Congo, but now we are paying the price. The Ugandan government has decided that they are going to be constructing roads in the Congo. It's not a strategic program. It is a payment. It is a payment from Ugandan people taxes that has been channeled to addressing infrastructure in the Congo. Yet our infrastructure doesn't also look appeasing at this time. I think the last issue that we would want to talk about is the land issue and environmental protection, land grabbing in Uganda. I don't know, most of the developing countries, we have been having that same problem of land grabbing where elements of state representatives decide to go and evict people on a massive scale from their land and take it. So we want to make sure that, Ugandans take ownership of their land, benefit from the natural resources that the land holds, and be able to to enjoy the country as Ugandans, not as squatters in their own country. So that's what we are focused on as people power in the diaspora.
Hmm. Dr. Daniel, welcome. Please tell us briefly about your organization, Team Project 54, and what you do.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for Direction for having us on this platform. And happy holidays once again to all our viewers across the world. Team 54 Project is a non-for-profit based organization registered here in the United States. Its major goal is to find ways that every ordinary person, by ordinary, every person not in government, but every ordinary person can contribute towards making Earth a better place. Since it has been agreed that there are goals, or 17 goals are what we need to be able to develop and push our planet or our world or our regions or our respective countries through to 2030. Those goals are goals built on getting new power, built on people, built on ensuring that the environment is safe and conducive, built on peace, built on strong institution, built on education, built on gender equality, built on creating decent jobs with dignity, built on us reinventing the way we build our cities, built on us defining what is luxury. We should be more conservative, or what they call reduction in consumption. What we consume should be more conservative. Respect and act on climate change. Look for smarter ways of dealing with agriculture. So all these 17 goals are what we call the Sustainable Development Goals. All of them are interlinked with one another. They determine who we are as humans. So unless we keep on pretending that we're humans, or keep on pretending we are doing elections when we are doing selections, those things do not hold water. So our organization have seen these sustainable development goals, the 17 of them, and have decided to focus on the climate environment, or the goal 13, which addresses climate solutions, addresses climate challenges, helps people adapt to the new reality. Because whether we like it or not, things are happening now, we have to adapt. A refusal to adapt is often what leads to extinction, or what leads to conflict. So if you do not end up dying, there will be conflict when you don't adapt to the reality. So it's our organization now build young people. We're run by young people. Every one of us are young people committed to ensuring to create a better world, by addressing the issue that is affecting our environment, especially the issue of climate change, the issue of disaster risk protocol management, the issue of smarter agriculture, renewable energy, decent jobs, educating people on the need to select right candidates or right leaders who end up creating platforms for them, to practice some of all this stuff. So we are currently in over 100 countries. Our members are doing their little bit in their own way. We focus more on training. We partner with other organizations to train our members who end up returning back to their country. We also submit position papers and also highlight some of our little projects we do. We are also into technology, developing everyday app ideas that can help people. Two of our app indeed won some international awards. One of note is Space Climb, space as in the space, and climb like in climate or like in a region. So the Space Climb is an app, or is supposed to be built as an app that can help those on land know what is happening around them. Because space-based technology is more sensitive and it reports in real time, and it's not subject to atmospheric parameters like wind, tornado. There are no tornado in space. There are no rain in space, So such technologies are easier to monitor what is happening on ground, monitor the water level, monitor the areas of arable land, monitor the disappearance of the Nile River, monitor why Lake Chad is also disappearing. Lake Chad feeds about 50 million people within that region directly, and about 200 million people indirectly are dependent on what Chad does. So the disappearance of Chad is a problem for everything. So our organization also started looking at how can we bring young people together to find solutions. So we came up, I and two other ladies came up with the Space Climb idea, an app that can notify farmers in Africa in real time that there will not be rain in 10 days, or there will not be rain in 3 months, so that you don't waste your time trying to plant rain-based crop, because that's what we've been practicing. So we're here to tell people that, see, soil is not even an important integral thing, in smart agriculture. Again, you can plant in water, aquaponics or hydroponics. You can plant in ice. There are smarter ways now that we can do, but these things require funding. These things require technical know-how. These things require a shift to reality. So our organization helps young people be able to translate this information in their local way, that the reality of the time is this, that Africa needs to wake up. Vulnerable communities in China, we're in China also, we're in the Pacific Island nations, Kiribati, Tonga, Solomon Island, Vanuatu. We're in those islands, that the reality is that it is time that young people just sit up. Trying to wait for government to do your bidding for you, it's a waste of time. COVID has exposed the fact that they actually have the capacity to do that, but they are refusing. So it's time that we now begin to take the decisions in our hands, get elected. But if you are going to be elected to represent your people, you must know what you can table before the people. And projects you are tabling before the people must be projects that can affect masses, not affect 2 or 3 of your family friends, or just because you want to give contracts. So that's what we are all about. We're striving to create a better world by addressing global issues, using the platform of sustainable development goals and educating people to see themselves as the ambassadors. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Since both of you are youth and you also work with the younger generation, and we are moving to the topic of democracy here, why do you think, if we take the case of Uganda now, there is only the Bobby Wine, he's 38 years old, and considered the younger person that ran for election in the continent. Why does that happen? Why we don't have more youth who are running for presidency or being part of the leadership position in the continent? Karim?
Yes, thank you so much, Mary, for that question. I think for the most part, especially in the sub-Saharan Africa, young people have been generally marginalized by our leaders. Since we acquired independence, we did not have a transition. We haven't had good transitional democracy. We've had generations like we were supposed to be, we as millennials are grandchildren of the independence generation. But you find that some of the people who asked for independence are still taking on some of the jobs in some countries. So there hasn't been capacity building for young people. Politics has been more for the old, for a different class of people. Until now, we realize that we as younger people who have gone through a lot, most most of us in different parts of the continent have seen the war. Um, most have been war children in different places, in places like northern Uganda. I have friends who uh, grew up for almost 20 years during the LRA rebels in northern Uganda, from the late 80s to the early 2000s. These people never seen shelter. So until now, they are just waking up to realize that we have to participate in liberating our country. And for the most part, politics on the continent has been a matter of life and death. It has been a few countries like Tanzania where some kind of transitional democracy has been, but in most places, you would see maybe two presidents back there was a war, maybe one president back, it was a revolution. So engaging young people in active politics has been really, really hard. And where they are being, active, chances are they are being used by the repressive regime to go into war. For example, in Uganda, when Museveni was coming to power in 1986, most of the people who fought were child soldiers. And right now, if you were to look for success stories of those, 10-year-old, 15-year-old who picked up guns in 1985 to go and fight, you wouldn't find them. So most young people have been frustrated. So until now, that we saw it is possible in other countries where young people have risen up and said enough is enough. And we've also realized that during the time of our independence, the people who got us independence, they were young. The Kwame Nkrumahs, they were young in Uganda. The king at the time, who was the first premier, was still young. The Jomo Kenyatta's, Julius Nyerere, they were still young. So we know, Africa being a young continent, we are the resource, and we are not going to wait for anybody to solve the issues of the continent for us. We are going to stand up and trying to do what we can to make sure we change the face of leadership on the continent.
So, Daniel, why is this gap generation happening? Why is the elder generation only dominating the leadership position in Africa?
Yes, thank you. I'll add that there are many reasons why there is this gap, and there are many reasons why young people seem to be uninterested with the process. The reason is this: for me, it's a personal thing. People see election as an event. Election is not an event, it's a process. So, and when you have a process, it means there has to be something that is beginning, there has to be something that is intermediate, then there has to be an end. So on the day of the election is not when election has started. No, election will start from, the primaries, the selection phase, the candidates, the debates. I'll start by saying the reason why the gap has been wide is that the people that have been in the process, like Karim has said, have been our grandfathers or our great grandfathers in some cases. And their own understanding of election is different from what true elections are. So for young people, we need to know what is election or what is an election. So an election is a formal agreement by a population or by a region or by a people or by an association or by a group to select representatives amongst them. It could be an individual or it could be multiple of people to go forth to deliver their mandate. That's what an election is. An election is not about one person. An election is about the agreement that a generation of people have said that this is what we believe will push our country together. I'll give you another example. If in Uganda they've agreed that we are tired of where we are right now, we believe that we should be producing our tires ourselves, producing papers ourselves, producing cars ourselves. The question now is, which of these political parties will be able to take us through that path? One party will say, okay, if you vote for me, I believe that we can be able to harness all our engineers who are automobile engineers abroad. We'll bring them back home, create a platform for them to manufacture Ugandan cars here. Another party can say, no, it will take us a lot of time. We know where the best cars are done. We will go to Europe and meet Mercedes. We'll go to Tesla and meet Mercedes and tell them that you have a corporate social responsibility to Uganda because you drill and mine our raw resources. Come and build us a plant, and then we can train our young people here to know how to handle the best stuff. Another can say, we're not going to do any of this. We're going to bring in bicycle, because the idea of a car can destroy the environment, but electric cars, bicycles are an efficient way to keep fit. My point is this: when you have a robust dialogue or a debate among all this multi-party system, the people now are exposed to ideas, and the people now can now go on a particular day agreed, to elect whoever they believe, can push them through this path. Now, the problem is this: most young people do not understand this, because what they know is Museveni, who has been there in 1986. The life of 1986 is better than 2021 or 2020 in Uganda, because it's assumed that with all the knowledge that we have in 2020, Uganda should have been way better. But we are all still doing the same thing, providing road, providing water. The world has gone beyond providing water and providing road for people. It is designing structure, building system, making it easier for your grandmother to send more money to their grandchildren in the city without her living. It's not about just traveling now from the rural area in Uganda on very bad roads, to the city. You understand? Through Zoom, through internet, you don't even need to make those trips. The point we are making is this: that young people need to now realize that there needs to be an education about election. The reason why there's a gap is that the knowledge we know about election is what we have seen. We've not sat down to research to find the true definition of what an election process is. There is a formal agreement. And when we do formal agreement, it means once someone breaches that agreement, the next stage for that person is to leave. But the elections we see in Africa is everybody is controlling status quo. Controlling status quo was not the original intention of an election. It is a formal agreement. At the point you breach that agreement, you cannot be there for 27 years. You can't be doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different outcome. That's insanity. That's a selection. That's not an election. That's fraud. You understand? So in Africa, we've been having that gap because people do not understand what elections are. People do not understand the components of election, how important a representative of that general population is. People do not understand the difference between party loyalty or loyalty to an individual and loyalty to the nation, loyalty to an agreed population. There's no population, there's no country on earth who wants its people to be hungry, who wants its people to die. There's no religious group, there's no ethnic group that say, I want my people to die, that's why I want to go for an election. None. So if there is none, if the agreement is for progress and advancement, measurable progress and advancement, you shouldn't be in the same place for 27 years, for 37 years. In some cases, like in Benin Republic, he has been there for all my lifetime. So the point I'm trying to make is this. The gap is there because there's still that mental shift that election, doesn't count. That election is about perpetuating strong men, that election is about, a ruler and his supporter or his ethnic group. It's no longer supporters, it is his ethnic group. They want to control the pace of change. So when these strong men control the pace of change, the country is always in conflict. There's always fights. There's always death. All those things pushes out young people. Some young people do not want to die for another man's vision. So, people that are young are willing to lay down their life for a nation, for a cause, for something that is good. But they are not ready to lay down their life for one strong man who believes. And because of that, they are alienated from the process. So election is a process, not an event. It requires you selecting your representative. Your representative take the mandate of the entire country and now deliver it through a vehicle of a party who sees how can we deliver this mandate of the people, not change the mandate, deliver the mandate of the people of creating prosperity, of creative inclusiveness, of ensuring that there is transparency, of ensuring that people's lives are secured and respected. So that's why we see that gap. So not until we get educated, not until we know what we want as a people, as a nation, as a continent, you understand, we will not be able to do much. And whoever we even elect will also struggle. So if we educate the people on what election is a formal agreement between you and the people or the party that you are putting there to deliver that progress for you, will not go forward. So that's what has pushed us afar, because we are still in the mentality that it is the ruler and the supporter. It has nothing to do with me. My vote does not count. I don't want to die, and then we're still where we are.
So
Maybe to add on that, can I add on that, Mary? I think one thing we have missed out is how expensive the elections on the continent have become. They have been monetarized, and given the the poverty gap, young people are not, I'll give an example of Uganda. Picking up nomination forms for aspiring for being a member of parliament used to be around $60. You go pick up your forms, you pay $60, you get the form. Right now, in the current general election that is going on, the forms were at 900, which is 3 million Uganda shillings for everyone. And that's the salary of a full paid teacher for a year. So if you want young people to be involved in the elections, and you have about 75% of them unemployed in the year of COVID, you are going to end up cutting off a huge number of people to participate in this. And we have also created a boogeyman type of, governance, where our political leaders become pacifiers. They pacify us. When you want something, you go to your politician, give us this. So we have become beggars, and we are not asking them to pass policies that benefit a continent, but policies that benefit, a small group of people. And if I want to get something for myself, I'll go reach out to a politician that I know. They give me my cut, and I'll keep quiet. So one of the problems that we have been facing is that it's our people are being controlled because they are poor. When you're poor, you have no leverage. Whichever direction they send you, somebody is going to bring you a bag, a 5 kilograms of posho, and say vote for me, and you cast your vote, and then after a week you are not going to be having good services in the hospital. So we also want to look at the fact that it's been expensive for young people. And in most countries, there has been a small group of people that, control power. You would see it in Nigeria, where you have to be a good Hajj, big guy to run for office. In places like Ghana, it's so monetarized. It is so monetarized. Right now in Uganda, Museveni has been buying off opposition leaders. He comes and say, how much do you want? How much do you want to switch sides? So given the poverty levels, people end up buying into that, and we end up having the same leaders because of our ignorance, and also the governments that we have been having. We haven't. I'll give an example of Uganda. The idea of separation of powers, where you have a legislature which is different from the executive, and the executive which is different from the judiciary. In Uganda, that doesn't exist, because you would find, let me give an example. You will find an army officer is a member of parliament, is a cabinet minister in the executive, and also works for the army as the judiciary. That is a person who is going to evict you on the land, and you will say, okay, you cannot report me anywhere. You cannot check an executive person in the executive when he's a member of parliament, and also when he's also part of the judiciary. So we have most of our countries have not yet reached to a level where we can have an independent parliament, where you can have an independent judiciary, where you can have an independent executive. So those are some of the problems that we as Africans are facing.
So talk about that also. This statistic said there is 5.50% a day is the daily income that Ugandan spend usually per day. And what you have been talking above at all, I know some of the African countries also, they have been delivering good services and implementing the good government. My question is, Daniel, do you consider that democracy is implemented in the continent?
Yeah, thank you so much. You're asking a very good question, because you're a young person, and you're not in power now. But clearly, if we are to define what democracy is, which is not far from what election process is normally, democracy is government of the people, right? Government of a given population of the people. It's not government of one man or one person. It's government of the people. It's not government of an ethnic group. It's government of multi-ethnic, multi-collaborative, multi-diverse people in a given location. So, and again, it's still the same definition with the election. I think what will answer the question whether we are having good election or whether democracy is being enshrined is, what will it take for us to have a good election? And that's some of what Karim has been able to explore. That if we're going to have a good election, before the election, there's some certain things need to be in place. One, an independent judiciary system. But before you put the independent judiciary, people will organize the election, right? We've agreed about 30 years ago, African Union said, let us have an electoral commission in all of the African countries. It's an agreement that was reached. And they all agreed with the UN and everything in 2011. They now have what we call an electoral commission. Now, those electoral commissions do not occur in most Western nations that are more advanced. So we should have good electoral commission, those that will organize the election, set the rules, But for you to have an electoral commission, those electoral commission must tell every party, this is what our country is all about. This is what Uganda views as Uganda. This is what it means to be a Uganda, a nation Uganda in 2020. Now, that's what the Electoral Commission do not know. If I ask you, Karim, what makes you think you are a Ugandan? Why can't you do better in New York or anywhere else? What is in it for you as a Ugandan in your country? It may be hard for you to tell me, because I want good road. I want my kids to be okay. I want to, whenever I come in from anywhere I'm coming from, I have security. I want a situation where my elected officials listen to me And I want a situation where there are no conflicts. I want a situation where we're not saying this person is from this tribe in Uganda, this person is from this tribe in Uganda. We're talking about one Uganda. And the truth of the matter is that that's what democracy tries to say. Democracy tries to push out all those ethnic sentiments, religious sentiments, and have one body, one homogeneous group of people, but many vehicles in delivering that aspiration those group of people will have of inclusiveness, participation, good education, access to good health, creating conducive environment for things to work. But that cannot work if we don't have a good electoral commission. It can't work if we don't have independent judiciary. It can't work if we don't have people like Karim, civil society speaking up and submitting the desires of the people. It can't work if we don't have political system accommodating divergent views. I am telling you, the problem is not even about the current president in Uganda. If he leaves today, he's not going to be there forever. It's just that people are just tired, right? If he leaves today, I'm assuring you, if you do not have leaders that can, have divergent view, okay, this party is saying something different. Okay, how can I marry this party view and modify our own and make things better? You understand? We're still going to have another Museveni doing the same thing over and over again. So the problem is that Museveni doesn't know that he can listen to divergent view and not feel upset and now work on his own ideal of making things better. And divergent view is that you must encourage more parties to come in. It's a multi-party system in almost all the 55 countries, of course, excepting Morocco, that runs a monarchical kind of system. You understand? But the point I'm trying to make is that for you to have good elections, you must have good electoral commissions that have researched on what the people want and now table it before the party. Then the party will now have to now look at whether are they conservative, are they liberal, are they in the middle, are they centrist, are they global, are they so? Those are things that are up for discussion. Secondly, you must also, for you to have a good election, you must also educate the people that are going to be part of that process. Thirdly, before you have it, you must now have a judiciary that will hold every single person accountable. Then more importantly, you must now have a constitution. A constitution is the one that limits the power of your president. So a situation where your president from time to time can go to that constitution, change the law, well, whether we like it or not, it's right. So we must now make it a law, even within the constitution, that this constitution is what limits the power of the president. The president does not have that power to change it unless he comes back to meet the people through a referendum. These are smart ways Western worlds are doing it. So for instance, the Prime Minister of UK cannot just remove their people all away from European Union. No, they had to do a memorandum. Please, my people, this is what we want. But do you people want this? That's why I'm saying that election is a formal agreement of people. So at any point when a leader feels that the population's agenda is going overboard, he now calls for a referendum. And that's what your leaders are not doing. And that's what young people should be asking. Okay, Mr. President of Uganda, we've been here for 37 years. I was still 4 years old as Bobby Wine when you were there. And the country didn't really drift more. We are now 50 million people in Uganda. We now have 75% of the population is between 15 and 35 years old. You are still teaching us about 504 Peugeot when people are thinking about electric vehicles. Mm-hmm. This thinking cannot help us because in the next 10, 20 years, you may not be around, but the problems you have set up will now mean I, as a 14-year-old boy, will be 44 and I will have not gotten my potential. Let us do a referendum. Let us ask the people. And we're going to use this following area. In the area of education, do you think Ugandans now that cannot practice medicine outside of Uganda because whatever knowledge that they're having now, the Western world field is too low. They have to write more exams. Do you think our level of education is okay? Or what kind of education do you want us to do? Do you want us to be doing A for apple when A can be for alligator? When A can be for elevation, when A can be for any other thing? Do you want us to remain in A for apple, an apple that we have not seen? Okay, in the area of health, do you like the way our healthcare sector is? What area do you want us to do? Do you want us to do primary healthcare? You want us to do secondary healthcare? You want us to do tertiary healthcare system? Do you want us to even go traditional and herbal? If we must go herbal, shouldn't we do research to pick out those things that can be harmful? We've not had that discussion, and that discussion cannot be had by the leader that the people do not want. So a referendum is what I feel that young people, that's not stopping young people from still seeking elected position. But the problem is that you must be able to hold your leaders accountable. And the only way you can hold your leaders accountable is not to fight in an election with them. No, it is to tell them first, let us set the standard first. Let us ask our people what they want. When we now ask our people what we want and we get a research database across all the spectrum, we'll now sit down as different political parties, go home and do your work and come out how you can be able to deliver with evidence based. So these are the narrative that we need to discuss. It's happening in Africa. It's not in Uganda. It's the same thing happening in Cameroon. English speaking part of Cameroon, they've been locked down for more than a year. People die every day being able to speak English in Cameroon just because they are tired of being dominated by the French speaking stuff. It doesn't mean all the French speaking Cameroon people are evil. It's just that these strong men perpetrate themselves and create a mentality for people that even the French people that may be in the silent minority will now be impoverishing the quiet majority. That's what election is. Election should be about the majority, but sadly in Africa is the reverse. It is the quiet majority that are always suffering. If you check all the electoral people in Uganda, you are not up to 200,000. Ugandans are 50 million. Of the 50 million, 37 million people can vote because they are within the age of 18 and 35. So when you say that young people do not have money, but I know that young people have phone, they're on Facebook, right? So if each of you donate 1 shilling, 1 shilling, if 18 to 35 years old people that are between 22 to 22 million people in Uganda donate 1 shilling, you will get 22 million. 22 million instead of being on your Facebook where you buy airtime, instead of drinking beer, instead of chasing women, instead of dancing, you donate for one person and say, go and pick up this form. But before you pick up this form, these are what we have found out from young people that we want. It will change. So I agree that the question may be, okay, they're putting in money to hinder you, but it's not as if you can't get around it. You can't, but it requires commitment. It requires the person you are going to put forward. Is he going to follow your own agenda of the population or his own agenda he believes? So these are some of the challenges. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is that we don't really practice full democracy.
So what I'm mentioning here, because there is also some examples of good country that have done good in democracy.
That's true.
And also holding elections. You have South Africa, you have Kenya, you have Ghana. But I don't know about Ghana because it just have this. So what makes this country move forward and have done a good job and other not in the continent, if we are talking about the 55 country?
I think institutions are the engine of democracy. We can organize the elections, but if you don't have institutions that are going to uphold the will of the people, you will be doomed. I'll give an example in Uganda. In the last elections, Museveni was taken to court for rigging, and some of the statements that the Supreme Court gave were like, okay, we see the rigging was there, but it wasn't so much to influence. Or the people were killed, we see the violence was there. However, the number of people who were killed were about 5, and those are just 5 votes. So you ask yourself a question: how many people must die for the judiciary to decide on behalf of the people? Or how many votes must be stolen? Because if one person had stolen a chicken, they wouldn't say, oh, we just stole one chicken, we can let them get away with it. Maybe if it steals 20, will come. No. You have been seeing gross human rights abuses on innocent people. We have an international human rights lawyer right now who is being detained, and the cases are against him are so, trumped up charges. But when it comes to things that are pivotal to turning the country, like the elections, the judiciary would look on the other way and say, you know what, we recognize all that wrong was done, but let us just go ahead with this. So when we came out of 2016 and the Supreme Court gave recommendations to the Electoral Commission, to the Parliament, of which to follow, by 2021. They gave about 30 recommendations, which were having, an independent electoral commission, making sure there is civic engagement before the election, and all of that hasn't been done. Now we have a crisis in Uganda where even international observers are leaving.
Mhm.
The people who observe the elections on behalf of the EU, last time they are not coming in. They said we are not participating in observing an election that we think is going to be rigged already. So the burden right now is on us as Ugandans to guard our vote, to make sure we observe, to keep appeal high. Because what happens, even with our international development partners, there are times, when diplomacy totally fails and you're like, okay, we are just going to walk away.
Mhm.
But we as Ugandans have decided that even if our development partners decide that they will not be part of the observing, we are going to be there. We are going to make sure we send election observers at almost 3,000 and 34,344 polling stations in Uganda. So we are trying to make sure that we get the human resource to be at each and every polling station to observe and count and stay there until a winner is declared at each polling station.
Okay. So, dear viewers, we are still on our show. Today' topic is democracy, election, and COVID-19 crisis in Africa. Please send us your suggestions and also share with your friends and network. Going back to the topic, Uganda has some of the laws like the cyber security crime, and also the social media center, and there is computer use and offensive communications, and also Estella, like this has the government has harassed some of the activists according to these laws. I know that Bobby Wine was also was arrested last month when he was doing a rally campaign under the ground. With all this, how are your people reaching the how are you reaching the people under the ground to talk about their presidential program?
Um, we have been using more social media to reach out to the people. Uh, I know about a week ago, the Uganda Communications Commission sent a letter to Google and YouTube to ask them to restrict or pull down all channels that have been broadcasting live at Honorable Chagulanyi's campaign rallies.
Mhm.
Fortunately, the reason why social media has been effective is because we have been fulfilling the reasons why uh, the founders of YouTube and Facebook did. They did these channels to help people like us who were far away from the mainstream to have our own platforms where we can come on a show like this one and talk about issues that wouldn't, be on national television. Two, the government of Uganda has been really using the pandemic as a bite to curtail opposition leaders. We Our team has been shot at. There has been a lot of tear gas, even in deep in the villages where there hasn't been a direct correlation between the campaign rallies and the rise of COVID-19. The rise of COVID-19 in Uganda is mostly due to the negligence of the government of Uganda, because for them, when the scourge hit the country and at the early stages, they thought it was going to be a wave. It is going to be something that is going to take maybe 2 weeks and go. So when all these COVID donations came in, we received about 10 million US dollars from USAID, and that money was supposed to be given to vulnerable people as cash, $25 per household for about 150,000 households. Unfortunately, uh, the government decided that they would hold that money until we kept pushing. We called the Ugandan embassy, the US embassy in Uganda. We called, US department, and that money was put on hold. We also received about 300 million US dollars in COVID relief funds to help on small businesses, to help our
Mhm.
hospitals. Uh, but that money has been centered into the hands of a few. It hasn't gone to help the hospitals that we are having. We also received 491 US million dollars from the IMF. So all of that money that we received to fight COVID has been channeled into Yoweri Kaguta Museveni's campaign. He has politicized everything, starting
Mhm.
from we as People Power, the National Unity Platform, earlier this year, we had a strategy of how we could engage our people, how we could,
Mhm.
talk about the scourge.
And
Honorable Line had a song about COVID. We were making masks. Unfortunately, they were confiscated. The government sent
just
security operatives to places where we were making masks, where we were making,
just
small things.
I have a quick question here.
Yeah, yeah.
What is the best way that you think you can solve that? Because if the government right now are taking all this money to work in their campaign for their benefit, what can you do as youth and as on the movement, the people power movement?
Right now, we are looking forward to 2021. As young people, we are ready to change the government, because most of these loans are going to be on the backs of our children and grandchildren. So if we don't put a stop at this government by electing them out, we are doomed. We are doomed. The country is about 14 trillion
But
US
how can you make those people go and vote with the electronic system and the digital system, and it's
Well,
still, the income is low and people don't have access to internet?
the digital system had been talked about earlier in the year. Uh, I think the government thought they would get funding for that. Unfortunately, we don't have the infrastructure to to conduct an electronic kind of election. So the votes came in. If the the cargo that carried the votes for next year just came in. We are just going to do it the traditional way.
Mhm.
We expect a lot of government intervention in terms when it comes to sending their security forces and intimidating people to the polls. But our people are resolved. They are ready. They are ready to stay in line and cast the vote. The only thing that we are encouraging each one of our teammates, each one of our supporters, to at least make sure they make personal masks, because it could be a bite. The government might
Mhm.
decide you don't have a mask, you are not going to vote. And all the masks that were supposed to be given by the government of Uganda have been politicized. If you don't
Mhm.
belong to the Museveni National Resistance Movement Party, you're not going to get a yellow mask. And there is
Okay.
no reason why you should force a yellow mask onto somebody who doesn't believe in the kind of direction you're taking the country.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Let me go to Daniel on that, because also Daniel, increasing Africa has increasing of COVID-19 cases over 2 million now. And also the World Health Organization and Africa CDC has warned that there will be a second wave of that. Also Nigeria, SARS in Nigeria, Amnesty International have recorded like 82 cases of human right violation during SARS movement. And there is expected of 1,108 infected cases in the second wave. Why is that happening, and what is the solution for that?
Yeah, thank you for that question, and I must appreciate Karim. It's not easy to, voice concerns and voice news about what's happening in Uganda. Um, I'll I'll start by addressing the issue of how can we solve the problem of elections, where people want change, they want to change the status quo, they want things to be better. What are the little things that they can do?
Mhm.
There are three things that they can do. One starts with the party in question. The party in question must be able to come and tell the people what their manifesto is. Now, when the party in question or whoever is seeking elective position has come to meet the generality of the nationality to say, this is what we are going to do for you, then the next question is, what would the other party do? When the other party has successfully done or has refused, then the question is, we must call for a national debate.
Mhm.
See, let us start from what is the right thing first, because you want people to come out and stick out their neck and vote for people. People need to know, what are we going to vote for? Okay, on renewable energy, what is your candidate's position on renewable energy? What is your candidate's position on cognitive education? What is your candidate position on the lesson model for education for the next 4 years? What kind of education do we want to tell people in the university? Is it the one we want to produce civil servants again for Uganda, or produce people that are entrepreneurs? People do not know. You can't give what you don't have. So even if they know, let there be a national debate.
So this is also take us to the point of the COVID crisis now. Why is this crisis happening?
On the issue of the COVID crisis, it's unfortunate. And Karim has said it all. The problem is that COVID has exposed what me and you already know. We don't have a solid, standardized, regulated healthcare sector in Africa, exception of Morocco and South Africa. Exception of Morocco and South Africa. I will explain to you. Before now, we know fully well that we have malaria. Till now, malaria has not been eradicated. It's solely a disease situation for Africa. So they don't even have a protocol or a program. Okay, in the next 70 years, we're going to eradicate.
But it's still the Africa Disease Control have just it's a body by the AU was established during the COVID-19 to tackle the crisis for that. Is this not enough?
It's not enough. Sorry, let me just quickly round this up. It's not enough because we've seen the impact of COVID in other advanced nations. Other advanced nations that have foresight. They have a trauma one. They have stages of protocols that are activated whenever they have any eventuality. If there's an accident today and there's mass casualty, there's a hospital in a local government that can handle the first mass. Once there's a spillover, they move to the next state, trauma 2. When there's a spillover, they move to the next state. Everybody knows where to go to when there's a particular illness. This is Uganda and Nigeria, where people don't even know where to go to when they have cancer. They know if they go to their local regional hospital, they're just fooling themselves. They know there's not. Even when they go to the governments, they know. So what COVID has done is that they exposed the fact that governments in Africa have been lying to the people that they will provide universal healthcare coverage, that that hospitals have easy access to hospital. Having easy access to hospital is not recognizing and painting and having a banner of hospital. Can that hospital be able to test for sugar, test for HIV, test for tuberculosis, test for malaria without the candidates not having money be able to pay? Testing doesn't mean treatment. That's another thing. You understand? Treatment, again, has process. You have to categorize them. Is it primary care? Is it intermediate? Is it tertiary long time? Somebody has cancer in Uganda. Where will the person be able to go to if he's in a rural area? Who is going to fund it? You understand? But here in America, government even have percentages they pay for serious level of illnesses. If it's an illness beyond your control, you understand, there's a percentage they can pay to you. Uganda doesn't have a percentage it gives to any citizen. Peradventure, they have leukemia. There's no even treatment for that. So COVID only has exposed the fact that Africa has not been prepared for infectious disease. That the Ebola we have, they didn't learn because donations were given to them. You understand? Can you imagine you have COVID, you are building a tent for COVID. How many people will a tent carry? A tent of 50 people. And they are telling you that the incidence you have is 10,000 and you are building a tent of 50. And the tent of 50 is more expensive than a stadium mobile hospital that they've erected in Oregon. It doesn't make sense. So the point we are making, sorry, my dear, the point we are making is this. As a health personnel, that's why I'm passionate. I pray and hope that this second wave is not as serious as it is. And to the best of my understanding, God has been faithful to us. Because I can't explain why we're just pretending. How many number of tests has Uganda done? How do you know you don't have COVID when you've not tested? What kind of logic is it? Okay, the reason why we didn't kill anybody because the bullet was still in the gun. What do you mean the bullet is in the gun? We know that your gun, aka, can take about 25 to 30 rounds. So you've not counted the number of bullets left. How do you now know it is not your gun? It doesn't make sense. So some of the problems we have is that we have not been truthful all along with building primary healthcare education stuff, and it has caught up with us. COVID is the next stage of infection that we never had prepared for. We are still dealing with diarrhea and bacteria. Sorry, go ahead.
I have like 1 minute. I have to
Well,
go to the last question.
no, can
With
I
the
add,
change, can you
Mary?
conclude in that? Because I have a last question. I have 1 minute left for each.
Okay.
The issue of constitution change in the age limit in the constitution. Many countries have done that. Like country like Cote d'Ivoire have done that. Ivory Coast, and recently just Uganda. Museveni have done that. He have moved one article. He add the article 110B in the constitution so that he can be legally elected for the third term. Uh, what is the way forward from here?
Okay. I'll go back, if you would allow, for me to speak about, malaria, how we have had this selective outrage over COVID-19 and neglected the fact that malaria takes down most people in sub-Saharan Africa. For example, in Uganda, an average person who lives in a rural area is most likely to have about 15,000 mosquito bites a year.
Mhm.
15,000 mosquito bites a year. So the number of people who die of malaria in a country like Uganda, it's about 200,000. And it is not treated as a pandemic. But now that we have COVID-19, which has claimed about 200, 300, we have, we have abused over $1 billion in COVID funds. That money would have been channeled into, even if we were to build 4 great referral hospitals in the 4 regions of the country, to say let us concentrate on 4 referral regional hospitals that will be taking care of this. The money has been swindled, has been taken into the campaign. But to talk about, lastly, the question you spoke
The
about,
age limit.
age,
Guinea, Ivory Coast, Uganda have just done that. Yeah.
like the doctor said earlier, we cannot have transitional democracy if we don't have institutions that can uphold to the law of the land. The Uganda 1995 constitution was supposed to be a trademark of Uganda. It was supposed to be our Magna Carta. But what happened is, as the president stays on longer, he finds need, because he has absolute control. He has absolute control of the parliament, where the parliament of Uganda in the 1960s, when it had just been built, it was supposed to have 81 representatives. Now it has been petitioned so that we can have 427. We have 427 representatives. So that means any person that any constituents that the government introduces, it is going to claim the ruling party. So those are the people that Museveni brings into, parliament to pass these outrageous laws. So if we were to bring back Uganda to the 1995 constitution, I think we would have a good start. But as of now, the constitution, I would say, has been raped continuous times. It has been raped by Museveni for about 4 times. First, he changed the term limit. Then he came onto the age limit. It has become, just like any other book that you can go today and change the pages and come back and rule the people. But we are hopeful that in this coming general election, Ugandans will decide the future. Will decide that we go back to the trademark constitution of 1990.
Okay, thank you, Karim. Dr. Daniel.
Yes, just to address your question, how can we resolve this issue of constant manipulation of the constitution? Let's go back to how it started. So who are the people manipulating the constitution? It's alleged now that is the people in the parliament. So what do you think should be the solution? Make it harder for them to do that, right? One way you can make it harder for them to do that is to have a referendum. See, we can't keep doing the same thing over again. A referendum means that it is now not in the power of those that constantly manipulate the constitution to change it. So we can say, let us have a referendum for the entire nation. We will set up committees representative of both the president, the people, ethnic groups, religious leaders, whether Christian, Muslim, Voodoo, whatever it is, young people, everybody come and form a committee for a referendum. What is the referendum? What is the future of Uganda? What do Ugandans truly want? When we now do that, part of what those requirements will be in the constitution is at no time should any person have power over the constitution. Constitution cannot be manipulated unless it comes back to meet the people. As I speak, there's no such thing in Uganda law like that.
Mm.
So you see, you are playing with people that are very smart. It means you have to up the game. And that's where young people in Uganda, young people across Africa, it's not just only in your country, it's in Cote d'Ivoire too. So the problem is we always think we need to wrestle with them. And Guinea, 52 years. Their first democratic election was just a few years ago. They are now about to do a transition. The generation, the grandchildren there now are just 15, 10 years old. They've seen their great-grandfather being minister all their lives. That country is still the poorest country in West Africa. Nobody even hears about Guinea. I'm very sure if I ask you now what's happening in Guinea, you'll be confused. The reason why we're hearing about Uganda is at least there's still some semblance of development. Nothing is happening in Guinea. Nothing. Because they ravished that place for 52 years, the same person over and over again. So the key thing is this. Rather than we need to be smart. We're young people. Is there anything like a referendum? Can a referendum mean the entire people voting to say this is what we want? It is now left for you as a party to go and discuss with people. Another strategy that can help us is you need to also meet the supporters of your president. Your president is going to cast only one vote. If it is true, genuinely, that there are ethnic groups supporting him, it may be hard for you. You're not fighting one man. This is the thing I'm trying to tell people. You're not fighting one man. You're fighting a group of people. So why not we now develop our message, our communication to his supporters? Get media coverage. Media coverage is very important. Please, we know we can disagree as an ethnic group, but look at why we are pleading for us to be included in the government. This is what we'll do for you. This is what we'll do for you, different from what he's giving you. So that the attack is not only on him, but on his supporters. Another important thing we can do is voter education. Okay, how many Ugandans, young people now have registered and have gotten their vote? Yes, they will tell you that they didn't see their name on the voter stuff, that they expunged their name. But how many have voted? Know your numbers now. You understand? So that you can now start getting, even if you don't get the president or the provisional government, you can get the regional people, those 400 and something representatives. How many? Now, have you had a national debate? How many of all these presidential people that will be doing election in January, you have all their mandates on how many young people will be in the cabinet, how many girls will be in the cabinet, what will happen to any person that kidnaps, what will happen to any person that violently takes ballot boxes? You have none of those discussions.
Mm-hmm.
So you must begin to say, let us have a national debate. Let us know and allow the people to decide who they want to vote for.
Mm-hmm.
Then thirdly, trying to push out or trying to say you can do without the international observer is the worst mistake you can do. Because even amongst you Ugandans, amongst Africans, we don't like ourselves. We pretend to like ourselves. We don't like ourselves. The truth of the matter is that if you even put in a referendum that, okay, somebody from, let another prime minister from Europe come and rule Uganda, you'll be surprised. Many Ugandans say, I'll prefer that prime minister rule as long as he's going to provide food for me. It means people are tired. They are just confused. They're just mentally.
Just conclude for me, Daniel.
The truth of the matter is that it's something that all of us have to be involved in. We have to have divergent view. You cannot be using that same way you attacked him 27 years ago to do the same thing. You understand? But we must fight. I agree with you totally, Karim. We feel sorry. It's just pathetic, but what can we do? All we can do now is at the local level, start discussing with his tribal people. Start discussing with your own tribe. Okay. Get your own block vote. Get some of his own block vote. Plead with them. Start looking out for generals and soldiers and police officers and judges and plead with them. You understand? Discuss with them what you intend to do. Tell them, okay, ask him to join a national debate, and then every young person in Uganda, if 22 million young people now between the age of 18 and 35 vote, that guy is out. But as you know that you're not going to be up to 22 million that is going to vote.
Thank you, Daniel. I think we just the time we don't have enough time for that, but thank you guys for joining us, for joining me for this great conversation. Our topic for today was democracy, election, and COVID-19 in Africa. I was joined by Dr. Daniel Chidimi. He is the founder of Team Project 54. Thank you, Dr. Daniel.
Thank you
Have a
so
good.
much.
Thank you.
And please, let's be safe. Let's wear our face mask, social distancing. Let's just be smart. And then young people, it's time for you to start bringing new content.
Thank you. And also Dr. Karim Natambi. He's the coordinator, U.S. coordinator for People Power Uganda. Thank you, Karim.
Thank you so much, Mary, for having me. Such a great opportunity, and thanks for sharing the
Yeah,
platform.
sure. Thank you. Have a great day, guys. Thank you. And thank you for all who joined us today for this great topic and conversation about democracy, election, and COVID-19 in Africa. It's still a long way, and the question is democracy achieving the continent, and what is the way forward? And this is, I'm going to conclude by this, and please send me your suggestions for different topics, and also what you think the way forward for that. I will meet you again in the next topic, another show, different conversation. My name is Mary Apollo. I'm the host for Direction. Thank you. Bye. Have a good day.